Hi there, and welcome to another video on domain name system. Have you ever wondered how does the computer know that it has to present a YouTube website in front of you when you type in youtube.com into your browser, as computers don't understand human language? So in this video we will understand the magic behind this, which is called domain name system or DNS. Computers interact with each other using numbers called IP addresses, whereas humans interact with each other by calling to their names and using a language which they understand. So humans are more comfortable in remembering names rather than numbers, whereas computers are good at remembering numbers. So it is very easy for us to remember the name, which is, for example, youtube.com, rather than remembering the IP address for youtube.com. So engineers developed a protocol which performs the duty of translating domain names to IP addresses, and that protocol is called domain name system or DNS. So domain name system or DNS is a naming database in which internet domain names are located and translated into IP addresses. So domain names translate names to numbers, or more specifically, DNS resolves domain names to IP addresses. For example, youtube.com is translated to 142.250.180.46. You can check this by using a utility called nslookup in Windows. You can type in nslookup in the CMD prompt followed by the domain name, which is youtube.com in this case, and hit enter. It will go to your home router or your ISP and it will return the IP address associated with the domain name. So it has returned IP version 6 and an IP version 4 address associated with youtube.com. So it is very difficult for us to remember the IP addresses, as there are more than 1 billion websites around the world. So when someone enters a URL into the browser looks up for IP address in its DNS cache. If it does not find the IP address in its cache, it will ask the DNS resolver to look for the recursive DNS lookup. So DNS resolver will then check for its DNS cache and finds the IP address for youtube.com. If it does not find the IP address, it will forward the query to DNS root servers. DNS root servers are the top or the root of the DNS hierarchy. There are 13 sets of root servers around the world operated by different organizations which manage these root servers. Each root server has unique IP address. So DNS root server will check for the query and IP address for youtube.com, but it knows the IP address for .com top level domain server, so it will respond to DNS resolver with the IP address of TLD name server IP address. So once the DNS resolver receives the TLD name server IP address, it will forward the query to TLD name servers. TLD name servers or top level domain servers store the information for top level domains like .com, .net, .org, etc. So TLD name servers, this particular TLD name server is associated with .com, as we are looking for the IP address of youtube.com. So TLD name server will respond to DNS resolver with the IP address of respective authoritative name server IP address. So DNS resolver will once again forward the query to DNS authoritative name server for looking for the IP address of youtube.com. Authoritative name server responsible for knowing everything about website domain name along with the IP address of hosting server. So authoritative name server will respond to DNS resolver with the IP address of youtube.com. And once the DNS resolver receives the IP address for youtube.com, it will forward the response to the client with the IP address of youtube.com. Then the client will establish a TCP/IP three-way handshake with the YouTube server. It is worth noting that DNS resolver maintains a copy of the queries in its local database, so that if another client asks for youtube.com or any other website, it will check for the query in its local database first, rather than going through this process again and again. I hope this video has been informative for you. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing to our channel and press the bell icon to receive the notification for upcoming videos.